6 months had passed since the first meeting, and humanity now held provisional membership in the Confederation of Worlds. Hyunwoo Kim wore his new uniform with mixed feelings. The title military liaison meant nothing to the aliens, who had not fought a real war in 10,000 years. To them, his job was like being a museum keeper for ancient weapons. The space station orbiting Nexus Prime was beautiful beyond imagination. Crystal spires reached toward the stars, connected by bridges that seemed to float without support. Gardens filled with plants from 100 worlds created peaceful spaces where beings from across the galaxy could meet. Everything was designed to promote harmony and understanding. Hyunwoo stood in the military briefing room, a space that felt more like a library than a command center. Soft lights created a calming atmosphere. The walls showed peaceful scenes from member worlds. Even the chairs were designed for comfort rather than alertness. No wonder these people had forgotten how to fight. The situation in the Nexari system grows worse each day, reported General Kethmoran, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms. His species, the Thairani, had once been warriors, but had given up violence thousands of years ago. The unknown attackers have destroyed 3 more colonies. Our diplomatic envoys cannot make contact with them. Min-Ho Lee, Earth's xenobiologist, studied the tactical display with growing frustration. The aliens called it a conflict analysis, but to human eyes it looked like a child's game. Colored dots showed ship positions. Gentle curves indicated movement patterns. Nothing suggested the brutal reality of space combat. General, Min-Ho said, have you tried fighting back? The room fell silent. Several alien officers looked shocked at the suggestion. General Kethmoran's 4 hands moved in what Min-Ho had learned was a gesture of distress. Fighting back would only increase the violence, the general explained. We have sent messages offering to discuss their grievances. We have offered economic aid and territorial concessions. Surely no rational being wants to continue destroying when peaceful solutions exist. Hyunwoo bit back his first response. These people were so innocent they could not imagine an enemy who simply wanted to destroy. General, what if these attackers don't want to talk? What if they only understand force? Impossible, said Admiral Vantala, an insectoid being whose species had evolved from hive builders. All intelligent life eventually learns that cooperation brings better results than conflict. These attackers must be acting from fear or misunderstanding. Once we communicate properly, they will see reason. The tactical display updated, showing another colony going dark. 3 million beings lived on that world. Had lived, Hyunwoo corrected himself. The attackers, who the aliens had started calling the Void Swarm, left nothing behind but empty space and debris. Permission to speak freely, sir? Hyunwoo asked. General Kethmoran nodded. Of course. Your perspective as a Deathworlder may provide insights we lack. You're all going to die, Hyunwoo said simply. These attackers have destroyed 12 colonies in 6 weeks. They ignore your messages and refuse your offers. They're not interested in anything except killing. While you sit here trying to understand their motives, they're planning their next attack. The alien officers exchanged uncomfortable glances. Admiral Vantala's translator struggled with concepts that had no equivalent in her language. Commander Kim, your words translate poorly. Are you suggesting we should abandon peaceful solutions and resort to violence? I'm suggesting you should defend yourselves, Hyunwoo replied. You have warships. Use them, you have soldiers. Send them into battle. Stop these killers before they destroy everything you've built. Our defense forces exist only to maintain order during natural disasters, General Kethmoran explained. They have never been trained for actual combat. The concept is foreign to us. Min-Ho had been studying alien biology for months. His research revealed disturbing facts about the galaxy's peaceful species. Hyunwoo, I need to show you something. He activated his portable scanner and aimed it at General Kethmoran. The readings made Hyunwoo's blood run cold. General, may I ask about your pain tolerance? I do not understand the question. Min-Ho explained his findings. Sir, your nervous system registers pain at levels about 1% of human normal. What would be a minor injury to us would put you in shock. A human soldier could fight with wounds that would kill you from pain alone. The implications hit everyone in the room at the same time. These beings had not given up violence by choice. They had evolved beyond the ability to fight effectively. Their perfect worlds had made them too gentle to defend themselves. That explains much, Admiral Vantala said quietly. We wondered how Deathworlders could function with such primitive medical care. You simply endure damage that would incapacitate us. The briefing continued with reports from the front lines. Confederation ships fled rather than engage the enemy. Entire fleets surrendered rather than risk casualties. The Void Swarm advanced steadily toward the core worlds, destroying everything in their path. Yun Hai Choi joined the meeting during the afternoon session. As Earth's cultural attaché, she had been studying Confederation society while trying to help them understand humanity. Her face was pale when she entered the room. "I've been reviewing historical records," she announced. "The Confederation has not experienced a real military threat in 8,000 years. Their last war ended when both sides agreed that fighting was pointless. They have no institutional memory of actual combat. How did they handle pirates and criminals?" Hyunwoo asked. "Economic sanctions and rehabilitation programs," Yunhaya replied. "Crime rates dropped to almost nothing when basic needs were guaranteed for everyone. They simply eliminated the causes of conflict. But what about beings who choose violence?" Minho pressed. "Surely some individuals still cause problems." "They get medical treatment," Admiral Ventala explained. "Violence is considered a mental illness. We have not encountered anyone who could not be cured through proper therapy and medication." Hyunwoo felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's temperature. These people had created a perfect society by eliminating everything that made humans strong. They had no soldiers because they had no one willing to die for a cause. They had no warriors because they had bred the fight out of themselves. The next update from the front lines was even worse. The Void Swarm had destroyed the Kefarian homeworld. 2 billion beings dead in less than a day. The attackers showed no interest in prisoners or resources. They simply killed everything and moved on. "We need to evacuate the core worlds," General Kethmaran said, his voice shaking. "Perhaps we can find refuge in the Galactic Rim until this crisis passes." "Running won't help," Hyunwoo said. "These attackers will follow you wherever you go. You need to stand and fight." "With what?" Admiral Ventala demanded. "Our crews abandon their ships rather than face injury. Our weapons are designed for precisely targeted strikes that minimize collateral damage. We cannot even conceive of the mindset needed for war." Minho had been working on his scanner readings. "Hyunwoo, I think I know why the Void Swarm is so effective. Look at these biological markers." The data showed trace elements in the debris from destroyed colonies. The attackers were not just alien. They were alien in a very specific way. These readings match patterns I've seen before. They're from a high-stress environment, possibly another death world. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Somewhere in the galaxy, another world had produced beings like humans. But unlike humanity, these creatures had chosen conquest over cooperation. They were everything the Confederation feared about Deathworlders. "So we face monsters who are immune to pain, driven by violence, and impossible to reason with," General Kethmaran summarized. "What hope do we have?" Hyunwoo looked around the room at the terrified alien faces. These beings had built something beautiful. A galactic civilization based on peace and mutual understanding. They had achieved what humanity had dreamed of for centuries, but their paradise had left them helpless against the nightmare approaching from the void. "You have one hope," he said finally. "Us, humans, know how to fight because we had to learn or die. We understand violence because we grew up with it. We can face these killers because we're almost as dangerous as they are. You would help us?" Admiral Ventala asked. "Even though we fear you? Even though many of our people want you quarantined forever? We'll help," Hyunwoo promised. "Because someone has to stand between monsters and innocence. That's what soldiers do." Outside the meeting room, the peaceful corridors of Nexus Prime continued their gentle hum of daily life. Beings from hundreds of worlds went about their business, unaware that their perfect galaxy was about to change forever. The age of peace was ending, and the age of necessary wars was about to begin. The Void Swarm had reached the middle systems. 27 worlds had gone dark in the past month, and the Confederation fleet was falling apart. Alien captains abandoned their ships rather than face the enemy. Entire battle groups surrendered without firing a shot. The galaxy's perfect peace was crumbling under the weight of its own innocence. Dr. So Young Han published her research report on a cold morning when 3 more colonies had been destroyed overnight. The xenopsychologist had spent months studying both human and alien behavior patterns. Her conclusions would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about intelligent life. "Humans are evolutionary anomalies," she wrote in her report to the Confederation Council. While other species developed intelligence to avoid conflict, humans developed intelligence to win conflicts. We are the only known species that actively seeks challenges rather than avoiding them. Tae-Hyung Park read the report while preparing for his first command briefing. The former naval strategist had been reluctantly promoted to fleet admiral after the previous commander suffered a breakdown. The alien officers called it stress-induced cognitive failure, human. Doctors called it a nervous breakdown. From watching helplessly while his people died, the command center on board the flagship was a study in contrasts. Alien officers moved with careful, measured steps. Their voices remained calm even when reporting disasters. Every surface was smooth and curved to promote peaceful thoughts. It was exactly the wrong environment for planning a war. "Admiral Park," said Captain Yethvara, a cat-like being whose fur changed color with his emotions. Right now it showed the deep purple of extreme fear. "The enemy fleet has been detected approaching the Draconis system. Our forces there request permission to withdraw." "Denied," Tae-Hyung said simply. "They will stand and fight." The alien officers stared at him in shock. Captain Yethvara's fur shifted to the bright yellow of confusion. "Sir, the enemy force outnumbers our defenders 3-1. Tactical analysis suggests 0 probability of success." "Then we'll have to change the tactical situation," Tae-Hyung replied. He activated the holographic display showing the Draconis system. "Captain, how many ships can we move from the reserve fleet?" "Sir, pulling ships from reserve would leave the core worlds defenseless," protested Commander Zalthus, whose species had evolved from herd animals. "Confederation doctrine requires maintaining defensive positions to protect civilian populations." Tae-Hyung studied the display for a long moment. Human military doctrine was based on aggressive action and acceptable losses. Alien doctrine was based on preservation and 0 casualties. The two approaches could not be more different. "New standing orders," he announced. "All ships will engage the enemy whenever possible. No retreats without permission. No surrenders under any circumstances." The alien officers exchanged horrified looks. Captain Yethvara's fur had turned the black of deep distress. "Admiral, those orders violate every principle of civilized warfare." "You're asking our people to die." "I'm asking your people to fight," Tae-Hyung corrected. "There's a difference. The Battle of Kepler Station took place 3 days later." Tae-Hyung commanded the defense from his flagship while alien captains struggled to understand his battle plan. The strategy required sacrificing the outer defense ring to concentrate firepower on the enemy's main formation. By alien standards, it was insane. Hyunwoo watched the battle from the tactical center, serving as liaison between human and alien forces. The communications channels buzzed with confused and frightened voices as alien commanders tried to follow orders that went against every instinct they possessed. "Admiral Park," called Captain Movital from the destroyer squadron. "You're ordering us to ram the enemy ships. This will result in total crew casualties." "Negative," Tae-Hyung replied calmly. "You'll ram them with unmanned vessels loaded with explosives. Your crews will evacuate to escape pods first." The alien captain's relief was obvious even over the radio, but other alien officers were having different problems. Commander Halvera commanded the cruiser squadron that was supposed to hold the center line, while the destroyers flanked the enemy. "Admiral, my ships are taking heavy damage," she reported. "Request permission to withdraw for repairs." "Permission denied," Tae-Hyung said. "Hold your position. Reinforcements are coming." "Sir, we have casualties. Medical teams report severe injuries across the fleet." Tae-Hyung's voice remained steady. "Continue the mission, Commander. Your sacrifice will save millions of lives." The word sacrifice caused chaos on the alien command channels. Several captains demanded clarification. Others requested immediate medical evacuation for their wounded. A few ships actually broke formation to retreat without orders. "This is Captain Felthus," came an angry voice over the fleet channel. "I refuse to follow orders that guarantee casualties. I'm taking my ship out of the battle zone." Tae-Hyung's response shocked everyone listening. "Captain Felthus, you are relieved of command." "Security. Place him under arrest for cowardice in the face of the enemy." The alien officers had never heard terms like cowardice or court-martial. Their languages had no words for the concepts. The idea that someone could be punished for avoiding danger made no sense to beings who had spent thousands of years eliminating all forms of risk. But the battle plan worked. The Void swarm ships, expecting easy victory against retreating enemies, found themselves caught in a carefully planned trap. The explosive-laden destroyers smashed into their formation, while the damaged cruisers held them in place. For the first time since the war began, alien forces achieved victory. The cost was terrible by Confederation standards. 12 ships were destroyed, and over 3,000 beings were wounded. By human standards, it was a minor engagement with acceptable losses. By alien standards, it was the bloodiest battle in recorded history. Min-Ho Lee analyzed the aftermath in his laboratory. The alien wounded filled hospitals across the system. Most suffered from what humans would consider minor injuries, cuts, bruises, and broken bones. But for beings with extremely low pain tolerance, these wounds cause severe trauma. They're not weak, he explained to Yun-Hai during their daily meeting. They're just different. Their nervous systems evolved for a world without constant danger. Pain is supposed to be a rare emergency signal, not something you push through. Yun-Hai nodded, reading reports from across the galaxy. The civilian populations are having mixed reactions to the victory. Some are celebrating, but others are horrified by the casualties. There are protests on 17 worlds demanding that humans be removed from command positions. The political situation was becoming critical. The Confederation Council had scheduled an emergency session to discuss what they called the human military problem. Speaker Valon, who had led the first diplomatic mission to Earth, was now arguing that humanity was too dangerous to trust with galactic security. Hyun-Woo attended the council session as Earth's representative. The massive chamber was designed to hold representatives from 800 worlds. Beings of every shape and size filled the curved seats, their voices creating a gentle murmur of conversation. When the human delegation entered, the chamber fell silent. The question before us, announced Council Chairman Yul McKen, is whether human military leadership benefits the Confederation or threatens it. We have achieved victory, but at a cost that many find unacceptable. Speaker Vallon rose to address the chamber. Honored representatives, we face a difficult choice. The humans can win battles, but they do so through methods that violate our most basic principles. They accept casualties that we consider catastrophic. They make decisions based on calculations that treat lives as acceptable losses. Yet without their leadership, we were losing the war, pointed out Representative Calvera from the border systems. My world was scheduled for evacuation before Admiral Park's victory at Kepler Station. Human tactics may be harsh, but they are effective. The debate continued for hours. Some speakers argued that victory at any cost was better than defeat. Others maintained that a civilization was not worth saving if it abandoned its moral principles to survive. The galaxy was split between those who needed human military expertise and those who feared human military philosophy. Hyun-Woo finally requested permission to speak. The chamber fell silent as he approached the speaker's platform. 800 pairs of alien eyes watched him with mixtures of fear, hope, and suspicion. Honored representatives, he began, you debate whether humans are too dangerous to trust. You fear that we will corrupt your peaceful civilization with our violent methods. These fears are not unreasonable. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the chamber. The aliens had expected him to defend humanity, not acknowledge their concerns. But consider this, Hyun-Woo continued. The Void Swarm represents what happens when Deathworld evolution goes wrong. They chose conquest over cooperation. They became predators who see other life as nothing but prey. They are what we could have become. He gestured toward the tactical displays showing the current war situation. You have a choice. You can work with us to build something better than what either of our peoples could create alone, or you can face the Void Swarm with the same methods that have failed for months. The decision is yours. General Eugene Kang stood before the holographic map of the galaxy, watching red zones spread like an infection across star systems. 2 years of war had changed everything. Human commanders now led every major fleet in the Confederation. Alien officers served under human authority, following orders they barely understood. The victories were mounting, but so was the cost. The Void Swarm is retreating on all fronts, reported Colonel Min-Ho Lee, who had traded his scientist's coat for military uniform. Our new tactics have broken their advance. Intelligence suggests they're falling back to regroup around their home systems. Yujin nodded, but her expression remained grim. Victory was within reach, but she had seen the price paid for each success. Alien species that had known only peace for millennia were learning to make war. The gentle beings who had welcomed humanity were becoming something harder, colder, more like their human teachers. General, said Admiral Tae-Hyung Park through the communication link. "I need authorization for Operation Starfall. We've located the enemy's main staging area, but the attack will require significant resources." Yujin studied the tactical display. Starfall would involve sacrificing entire fleets to break through enemy defenses. The casualties would be enormous by any standard, but it might end the war in one decisive blow. "Send me the full operational plan, Admiral. I'll review it personally." The door chimed and Hyunwoo Kim entered the command center. His rank had grown to match his influence, but the years of war had aged him beyond his time. Gray streaked his hair now, and lines around his eyes spoke of too many hard decisions. "Yujin," he said quietly, "we need to talk." She dismissed the staff officers and activated privacy screens around her office. Through the transparent walls, she could see alien and human personnel working side by side. The cooperation would have been impossible 3 years ago. Now it seemed natural, even necessary. "I've been reading the reports from occupied systems," Hyunwoo said, settling into a chair. "Our methods are working, but they're changing people. The Velthari have started training their children for military service. The Thirani are developing weapons that would have horrified them before the war. We're not just defeating the Void Swarm. We're turning the galaxy into something like us." Yujin had been wrestling with the same concerns. "Would you prefer they remained helpless? When the next threat appears, and there will be a next threat, do you want them to be ready or defenseless?" "That's not the question," Hyunwoo replied. "The question is whether we're saving their civilization or destroying it. Look at the casualty reports. We've lost more beings in the past 6 months than the Confederation lost in the previous 1,000 years. Are we liberators or conquerors?" Before Yujin could answer, urgent alerts began flashing across the tactical displays. Na-young Seo, Earth's chief diplomat, burst through the privacy screens with a message pad in her hands. "General, we have a crisis," she announced. "The Nixari Collective is threatening to withdraw from the Confederation. They're calling human leadership a military coup disguised as alliance." Yujin activated the main display to show the political situation. 17 member species had filed formal protests against human command authority. Another 12 were demanding the right to opt out of military operations. The Confederation was fracturing along lines that hadn't existed before the war. "What triggered this?" Hyunwoo asked. Na-young consulted her notes. "Admiral Park's latest offensive. He ordered the evacuation of 3 Nexari colonies to use them as bait for a void swarm trap. The plan worked perfectly. We destroyed an entire enemy fleet, but the Nexari see it as humans treating their worlds as expendable resources." The communication system activated, showing Tae-Hyung's face on the main screen. The Admiral looked tired but determined. "General Kang, I need immediate authorization for the next phase of Starfall. Enemy reinforcements are arriving faster than expected." Yujin looked at the tactical data. Tae-Hyung was right. Delay would cost them the advantage, but approving the operation would require using allied worlds as battlegrounds. The political cost could destroy the Confederation. "Admiral," she said carefully, "explain your requirements for Phase 2. "We need to draw the enemy fleet away from their strongholds," Tae-Hyung explained. "Intelligence has identified 17 systems they'll defend at any cost. If we threaten those worlds, they'll move their main force to protect them. We can then hit their real strategic targets while they're out of position. Those 17 systems have civilian populations," Hyunwoo pointed out. "You're talking about using innocent beings as bait." Tae-Hyung's expression hardened. "I'm talking about ending this war. Every day we delay costs lives across the galaxy. The Void Swarm shows no mercy. Why should we handicap ourselves with moral restrictions they don't share?" Na-young stepped forward. "Admiral, if we follow this plan, half the Confederation will withdraw from the alliance. We'll win the war and lose the peace. Better than losing both," Tae-Hyung replied. "General Kang, I need your decision. Will you authorize Starfall, or will you let political concerns override military necessity?" Yujin stared at the map showing enemy positions. The Void Swarm had adapted to human tactics, becoming more dangerous as the war continued. Traditional approaches were no longer enough. Victory required choices that would have been unthinkable when the war began. "Negative, Admiral," she said finally. "Stand down Phase 2 of Starfall. We'll find another way." Tae-Hyung's face showed his shock and anger. "General, that decision will cost us months of progress. More beings will die because we refuse to make hard choices." "That's enough, Admiral," Yujin said firmly. "You have your orders." The screen went dark, leaving silence in the command center. Nayoung looked relieved, but Hyunwoo seemed troubled by the exchange. "You did the right thing," Nayoung said. "Did I?" Yoo-jin replied. "Taehyung is probably correct about the military consequences. We may have just prolonged the war by trying to preserve political unity. The next few weeks proved both of them right. Without the aggressive Phase 2 assault, the war dragged on through several more bloody campaigns. The Void Swarm regrouped and launched counterattacks that cost thousands of lives. But the Confederation held together and member species continued supporting the war effort. The turning point came from an unexpected source. Dr. So Young-han, working with alien scientists, discovered something crucial about the Void Swarm's origins. The enemy had indeed evolved on a death world, but one even harsher than Earth. Their entire species had been shaped by constant warfare against their environment and each other. They don't fight because they choose to, she explained to the senior command staff. They fight because they literally cannot conceive of any other way to exist. Cooperation is impossible for them, because their evolution eliminated every cooperative instinct. Minho studied the biological data with growing excitement, so they have weaknesses we can exploit. They can't adapt to situations that require working together. If we force them into scenarios where cooperation is necessary, they'll destroy themselves, Yoo-jin finished. We don't need to beat them in battle. We need to create conditions where their own nature works against them. The final campaign against the Void Swarm used this knowledge to devastating effect. Instead of direct confrontation, human-led forces created complex situations that required enemy coordination. The Void Swarm's inability to cooperate led to confusion, friendly fire incidents, and strategic disasters. But the victory came at a personal cost that Yoo-jin had not anticipated. Taehyung Park was found dead in his quarters the night before the final battle. The official report called it stress-induced medical failure, but the truth was simpler and more tragic. The admiral had taken his own life rather than face a galaxy where military victory was not enough. Hyunwoo attended the memorial service on Earth, watching as representatives from hundreds of worlds honored a human who had saved them all. The irony was not lost on him. Taehyung had become exactly what the galaxy feared, a human so focused on military success that he lost sight of everything else. He was the best of us and the worst of us, Hyunwoo said to Yoo-jin after the ceremony. He showed the galaxy that humans could win any war, but he also showed them what that kind of victory costs. Yoo-jin nodded, looking out at the stars where human and alien ships patrolled together. The war is over, but the real challenge is just beginning. We've taught the galaxy how to fight. Now we need to teach them when not to fight. The Void Swarm was defeated, but their legacy lived on in the changed nature of galactic civilization. The age of absolute peace was gone forever, replaced by something more complex and dangerous. The galaxy had learned that sometimes violence was necessary, but they had also learned that victory without wisdom led only to new forms of destruction. Humanity had proven they could rule through superior force. Now they needed to prove they could rule through superior judgment. The real test of their worthiness was just beginning. 3 years after the last Void Swarm ship was destroyed, Emperor Jae-sung Hwang stood on the observation deck of the Imperial Palace, watching ships from 1,000 worlds dock at the orbital station. The title still felt strange to him. 6 months ago, he had been Assistant Cultural Attaché for the Outer Rim territories. Now he ruled the largest government in galactic history. The reformed Confederation was nothing like the peaceful alliance that had first contacted Earth. Military service was now mandatory for all species. Strategic thinking was taught in schools across 800 worlds. The gentle beings who had once fled from conflict now understood that some things were worth fighting for. "Your Majesty," said Captain Daeun Kim, entering the observation lounge with her daily briefing. The young woman was everything her father Hyunwoo had been: brilliant, determined, and carrying the weight of impossible decisions. Her crew combined humans and aliens in ways that would have been unthinkable during the early years of contact. "What's the situation report, Captain?" Jae-sung asked, though he already suspected the answer would be troubling. "Long-range sensors have detected movement beyond the galactic rim," Da-yoon reported. "The signals match Void Swarm technology, but they're much stronger than anything we faced during the war. Intelligence estimates suggest this is the main force. What we fought was just their advanced scouts." Jae-sung closed his eyes, feeling the weight of 800 worlds pressing down on his shoulders. The galaxy had barely survived one war with the Void Swarm. How could they face an enemy that made their previous opponents look like children playing with toys?
How much time do we have?
He asked. Best estimates suggest 18 months before they reach our outer defenses. Daoun replied. Admiral Yu Jin is already preparing defensive strategies, but the numbers are not encouraging. They're bringing a force at least 10 times larger than what we faced before. The door chimed again, and Elder Hyunwoo Kim entered the lounge. At 72, the old warrior moved slowly, but his mind remained sharp as ever. He served as advisor to the emperor, helping navigate the complex politics of governing beings who had spent millennia avoiding the very concepts that now ruled their lives. Jae-sung, he said, settling into a comfortable chair. I've been reviewing the cultural integration reports. We have a problem. Another one? The emperor asked with tired humor. The younger generation of aliens is adapting too well to human military culture, Hyunwoo explained. They're learning to think like us, fight like us, and unfortunately they're starting to act like us. The Velthari Youth Corps has begun challenging their elders' authority. The Thirani have developed a concept they call honor in battle that's causing social disruption. Daoun frowned. Isn't that what we wanted? A galaxy that could defend itself? We wanted them to be able to fight when necessary, Hyunwoo replied. Instead, we may have created a generation that sees fighting as the solution to every problem. The galaxy is becoming more human, but not in the ways we hoped. The communication system activated, showing the face of Ambassador Sujin Park. Now in her 60s, she served as Secretary General of the Reformed Confederation, managing the impossible task of keeping hundreds of species working together, despite their fundamental differences. Your Majesty, she said, I have updates from the Outer Council meeting. The news is mixed. Give me the summary, Sujin, Jae-sung replied. The good news is that military recruitment is exceeding all targets. Every species is contributing personnel and resources to the defense effort. The bad news is that they're also arguing about strategy, resource allocation, and command authority. We have 3 separate factions demanding the right to lead the war effort. Jae-sung sighed. Let me guess. The old guard wants to return to peaceful solutions. The military faction wants total war, and the younger aliens want to prove they're as good as humans. Exactly, Sujin confirmed. Representative Valon still believes we can negotiate with the Void Swarm, if we just find the right approach. General Kathmaran's military council wants to launch preemptive strikes beyond the Galactic Rim, and the Young Alliance led by that Velthari hothead Tsar Valencia claims they can defeat the enemy without human leadership. Daoun shook her head in disbelief. Don't they understand what we're facing? This isn't a political debate, it's a fight for survival. They understand, Hyunwoo said quietly, but they're dealing with it in human ways now. Humans respond to existential threats by arguing about the best way to fight them. Apparently, we've taught the galaxy to do the same thing. The Emperor walked to the large window overlooking the station's docking bays. Ships designed by dozens of species worked together in ways their creators had never imagined. Velthari vessels with their flowing lines carried Thyrani shock troops. Human destroyers escorted alien scientific vessels. The galaxy had learned to combine their strengths, but they had also learned to combine their weaknesses. We need to address the long-term implications, Jae-sung said. If we survive this war, what kind of galaxy will we leave behind? Are we building something better, or are we just creating more efficient ways to destroy each other? Scholar Woo Jin-yoon entered the lounge carrying a stack of research tablets. The middle-aged academic had spent the past 3 years documenting how human concepts had spread through galactic civilization. His findings were both encouraging and disturbing. Your Majesty, he said, I have the final report on cultural integration. The results are remarkable. Concepts like personal sacrifice, strategic thinking, and acceptable losses are now part of standard education across member worlds. But we're also seeing the emergence of nationalism, military rivalry, and what can only be called warfare as entertainment. Entertainment? Daoun asked. Combat sports have become popular among alien youth, Woojin explained. They're recreating human military exercises as games. The Nexari have developed something they call battle meditation that combines warfare planning with spiritual practice. We've accidentally made fighting attractive to beings whose ancestors spent thousands of years eliminating violent impulses. The conversation was interrupted by urgent alarms throughout the station. Emergency broadcasts began playing on every communication channel. delivering news that changed everything they thought they knew about the approaching threat. "This is Admiral Yujin Kang, broadcasting to all Confederation forces," came the announcement. "Long-range reconnaissance has returned with critical intelligence about the approaching enemy fleet. The situation is worse than we anticipated, but also different than we expected." The main display activated, showing tactical data from the deep space mission. The images were almost beyond comprehension. Thousands of ships stretching across light years of space, moving in perfect formation toward the galaxy. "The approaching force is not just void swarm vessels," Yujin continued. "Analysis suggests they have absorbed technology and personnel from dozens of conquered civilizations. We are facing not just one enemy species, but the combined military might of everything they have destroyed over thousands of years." Dayun studied the tactical display with growing alarm. Those ship designs, some of them look familiar, almost like they're based on Confederation technology. Hyunwoo leaned forward, examining the data more closely. "They're adaptive. They learn from every enemy they face and incorporate their strengths. We're not just fighting the Void Swarm, we're fighting everyone they've ever conquered. Including other humans," Jae-sung realized with horror. "If they've encountered other Deathworld species." The implications hung in the air like a poison cloud. The enemy approaching the galaxy was not just numerous and powerful. They were experienced in fighting exactly the kind of opponents that the reformed Confederation had become. Sujin's voice came through the communication system with a new urgency. "Your Majesty, I'm receiving reports from across the galaxy. The news of the approaching threat has caused panic in some systems and determination in others. Several species are requesting permission to attempt diplomatic contact with the enemy." "Absolutely not," Dayun said immediately. "These beings don't negotiate. They consume." "The young people agree with you," Sujin replied. "But many of the older generations still believe that any intelligent life can be reasoned with. We may face internal conflict even before the external enemy arrives." Jae-sung looked around the room at the faces of beings who had become his closest advisors. Each represented a different aspect of what the galaxy had become: military, diplomatic, cultural, and philosophical. Together, they embodied both the strength and the complexity of the new galactic order. "We face two challenges," he said finally. "The obvious one is defeating an enemy that may be stronger than us. The harder one is proving that we can do so without becoming the very monsters we're fighting against." "How do we do that?" Dayun asked. "By remembering why we fight," Hyunwoo answered. "Humans didn't conquer the galaxy because we were the strongest. We succeeded because we learned when to fight and when to show mercy. The galaxy needs to learn the same lesson." Elder Hyunwoo stood slowly, looking out at the stars where ships from hundreds of worlds prepared for the greatest war in galactic history. "The real test isn't whether we can win battles. It's whether we can win them without losing ourselves in the process. Thanks for you." The blue marble hung in space like a jewel, but to the aliens watching from their ships, it looked like death itself. Commander Hyunwoo Kim stood on the bridge of the starship Taeguk, watching the alien vessels keep their distance. 3 months had passed since first contact, and the creatures from the stars still acted like Earth might explode at any moment. He could not understand why they seemed so afraid of his home planet. The aliens called it a death world. They said no thinking beings could live on such a dangerous place. But here stood Hyunwoo and his crew very much alive after surviving 30 years of war on Earth's surface. The final war had ended only 5 years ago, leaving scars across every continent. Yet somehow the aliens thought Earth was too deadly for life. "Sir, the Velthari ship is sending another message," said Lieutenant Da-un at the communication station. "They want to know if we're sure our ship is safe to board." Hyunwoo almost smiled. These beings had crossed the galaxy in ships that could destroy planets, yet they worried about stepping onto a human vessel. "Tell them yes, and that Ambassador Sujin is ready to meet them." The alien ship was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Its surface seemed to flow like liquid metal, changing colors as it moved. No sharp edges existed anywhere on its hull. Everything curved and flowed in smooth lines. Hyunwoo had seen the technical reports. The ship could travel between stars in days, carried weapons that turned matter into energy, and had shields that could stop anything humans could build. But the beings who made it were afraid of hot water. Sujin Park waited in the meeting room preparing her tea ceremony. She had chosen this simple ritual to welcome their guests, hoping to show them that humans wanted peace. The small table held everything she needed: the pot, cups, and hot water that had been boiling just minutes before. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. 3 aliens stepped through, moving with careful, slow steps. They looked almost like humans, but taller and thinner. Their skin had a gray-blue color that reminded Hyunwoo of winter sky. Large black eyes dominated their faces, and they wore robes that seemed to float around their bodies. "Welcome to our ship," Sujin said, bowing slightly. "I am Ambassador Sujin Park of Earth. Please sit with me and share tea." The lead alien, who had introduced himself as Speaker Valon, stared at the steaming pot. "Ambassador Park, is that water heated to dangerous levels?" Sujin looked confused. "It's hot tea. About 90 degrees. Would you prefer it cooler?" All 3 aliens took a step backward. Speaker Valon's voice shook slightly when he spoke. 90 degrees would cause severe damage to our tissue. "How do you plan to consume liquid at such temperatures?" "Like this," Sujin said. She lifted the pot with her bare hands and poured the steaming water into a cup. The aliens made sounds of alarm and reached for devices on their belts. "Please, don't be afraid. This is normal for us." Speaker Valon watched in horror as Sujin picked up the hot cup and drank from it. "Impossible. No being can touch heated metal at those temperatures without protective equipment. You should be badly injured." Hyunwoo stepped forward. "Speaker Valon, humans can handle much more than hot tea. During our wars, soldiers fought in deserts where the ground reached 60 degrees. They crossed frozen wastes where the air itself could freeze flesh. We have climbed mountains where the air is too thin to breathe and dived to ocean depths that would crush your ships." The aliens exchanged quick words in their own language. Hyunwoo's translator worked hard to keep up, but he caught phrases like pain tolerance impossible and death world adaptations. "Commander Kim," Speaker Valon said, "our medical experts have studied the data about your planet. Earth experiences temperature changes that would kill most galactic species. Your weather systems create storms with enough power to level cities. The very air you breathe would burn the lungs of beings from garden worlds. Yet you speak of these things as normal difficulties." "They are normal," Hyunwoo replied. "We grew up with them. Every human child learns to deal with heat, cold, storms, and danger. It makes us strong." Sujin offered tea to the aliens, but they refused to come near the hot liquid. Instead, she set the cup down and waited for it to cool. "Tell us about your world, Speaker Valon. What are they like?" The alien's expression changed, becoming almost dreamy. "Velthera Prime has weather that changes only with the seasons. Rain falls gently twice each week. The temperature varies by perhaps 10 degrees throughout the year. No storms threaten our cities. No predators hunt our people. The ground provides everything we need without struggle." "That sounds peaceful," Sujin said. "It is perfect," Speaker Valon agreed, "as are all worlds in the Confederation. We chose planets that would support life without constant threat. We learned long ago that beings develop better when they do not face daily survival challenges." Hyunwoo thought about Earth's history. Humans had indeed faced daily survival challenges. They had fought nature, animals, disease, and each other for thousands of years. Every generation grew stronger, smarter, and more determined than the last. The final war had been horrible, but it had also produced the technology that let them reach the stars. "Speaker Valon," he said, "how long has your people lived in peace?" "We ended all conflict over 10,000 years ago," the alien said with pride. "The Confederation maintains harmony across 800 worlds. We have not seen war in longer than your entire recorded history." The meeting continued for hours. The aliens asked many questions about human society, especially about their military. They seemed shocked to learn that humans had professional soldiers whose only job was fighting. The idea that some people chose to risk their lives for others made no sense to them. When the aliens finally left, Sujin sat down heavily in her chair. "They're terrified of us, Hyunwoo. Did you see how they jumped when I laughed too loudly? They think we're some kind of monsters." Hyunwoo nodded. "They've lived in safety for so long they've forgotten what strength looks like. To them, we're creatures from a nightmare world who should not exist." "But we do exist," Sujin said, "and now they have to decide what to do with us." Outside the window, the alien ships continued their careful patrol around Earth. Long-range sensors picked up more ships arriving each day. Some came to study the impossible humans. Others came to decide if Earth should be destroyed before its people could spread to other worlds. Hyunwoo understood their fear. Humans were different from every other species in the galaxy. They had been forged by a world that tried to kill them every day. They had learned to fight back against impossible odds and win. The aliens had spent 10,000 years building a perfect, peaceful galaxy. Now they faced a choice that would change everything. They could welcome humanity and risk everything they had built. Or they could try to eliminate the Deathworlders before they could challenge the Galactic Order. Either way, Hyunwoo knew the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had arrived among the stars, and they brought with them the strength that only a Deathworld could create.